Hi again, everybody, and thanks for staying tuned once again to the Jamie Maloney Real Estate Show here on 1250 Wins WHNZ. And again, you'll find my show on here every Mondays at noon, so I invite you to please tune in as my show aims to become your information source for the Tampa Bay real estate market. A little bit of an interesting point about this show. I'm actually in talks and plans with the station to actually take this to a 5-day-a-week format. I'm going to shift the focus outside of real estate and become a business and entrepreneurial show. So I'm very excited about that. So looks like possibly be airing Mondays through Fridays at 8 a.m. Same station here on 1250 WHNZ. But it will no longer be the Jamie Maloney Real Estate Show, although it'll still have a strong real estate-centric focus since I am a realtor, and that is what I spend probably 60 hours of my week doing. Nonetheless, I enjoy talking to different business owners and entrepreneurs in and around the Tampa Bay region and even nationally. And I think there's a great market going on in Tampa, a lot of development, a lot of stuff that I want to really get out to the public here in the Tampa Bay marketplace. And so probably around the beginning of February, the Jamie Maloney Real Estate Show is going to transition to That Business Show with Jamie Maloney, where business becomes show business. So I'm very excited about that. Still putting together the plans and getting the guests lined up. But anybody out there in the Tampa Bay marketplace and even nationally, if you have a business or an entrepreneur, an idea that you want to promote, get in contact with me. Shoot me a quick email, jamie@tampabayradio.com. I'd love to talk with you about getting you on the show, doing a segment with you, because 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, I'm always going to be looking for guests. So please get the word out. I'll be talking about it on my shows here in the next few weeks, but looking to launch sometime in the beginning of February. So I'm very excited about that. Go ahead and bring on my second guest here for the show, Dale Appell, who is an attorney with his own firm, Dale Appell PA, which is an auto accident law firm serving the Tampa Bay region. Dale offers to speak to groups throughout Tampa Bay with audiences raving that his presentations are informative, practical, as well as fun. Using his 30 years of experience in public speaking, Dale Appell has become one of the Tampa Bay's area's most dynamic speakers, whether presenting in front of a jury or groups that include the Hillsborough County Bar Association, the West Shore Alliance, the South Tampa Chamber of Commerce, Clearwater Bar Association, People's Court, Southeast Real Estate Investors Association, Tampa Bay Inns of Court, or the Florida Justice Association. Dale, welcome to the show. That's quite an impressive resume.
Thank you, Jamie.
So let's talk a little bit more about yourself and your firm.
Sure. We are an auto accident law firm. I've been practicing law since 1989. We have an exceptional group of people that work at the firm. Our goal is to help people through an auto accident by making sure their bills are getting paid, both medical bills, and if they're not able to work as a result of an auto accident, that their wages are replaced. And ultimately, at the end of the day, there's a settlement, and that is to help provide for future medical care, wage loss, and for pain and problems that they have going forward, to kind of try to make it fair that they're injured as a result of somebody not paying enough attention. Now,
I noticed in the show card that we sent her, you said your personal injury as well. Do you deal with other people outside of auto accidents, or does it have to just be auto accidents?
No, it doesn't have to be just auto accidents. I'd say about 90% of our cases are auto accident oriented. It used to be that medical malpractice made up a larger percentage of our cases. There's been changes in the laws that have caused us to have to be more selective, unfortunately. One of those things has been caps put on the what's called non-economic damages involved with medical malpractice. That's something that your legislature did here in Florida, and as a result of that, there's a lot fewer cases in medical malpractice that we can take. So we still do medical malpractice, certainly just not as much. We also are involved in slip and fall cases. But in those types of cases, because most of our cases that we take end up having to be litigated, there's a tremendous amount of more time and expense involved in that. We generally only take cases that involve surgery. So as a result of those things, about 90% of what we do is auto accident cases.
Now, take me a little bit through, you say slip and fall, and that's always like a hotbed when people are talking about, lawsuits and attorneys. I mean, if somebody's on somebody's property and they slip and fall, is the person who owns the property always at fault by default, or how does that work?
Jamie, that's a great question. I'm surprised because that's my job. It's what I do, that people think that way. If they fall, that the person's whose property they fell on is responsible, and it's a common misperception. But no, just falling on somebody's property doesn't make them responsible. In the law, the person who owns the property has to have done something wrong. So it's one of the things that if you fall somewhere, it's necessary to collect the evidence in order to prove that the person did something wrong. And we get a lot of people calling just saying the same thing. It was my fault. I was clumsy. I wasn't paying attention. But can somebody pay my medical bills? And I say to them two things. One is, did the person who owns the property do something wrong? And if they say no, then it's automatic, no, we can't be of help. And then two, sometimes people that own property, just to try to prevent lawsuits, pay extra for something called medical payments. And what medical payments will do is say, we'll come in, regardless of whether your property owner is at fault or not, and pay $1,000 or maybe $5,000 for medical bills, just so that the person will go away, not to try to pursue a claim, and the person pays extra for that. So not many policies have that, but if you're injured on somebody's property, it can't hurt to ask if they have medical payments as part of their insurance policy.
And I'm glad you clarified that, because that's something, I've had that, you hear that all the time. This is one of those cliche talking points about attorneys. Oh, if you trip and fall, the attorney's going to be calling you and you're responsible. And that's good to hear that just because it's your property, just as somebody trips and falls, you're not 100% responsible because it's your property. So you're
not automatically responsible, but I got to tell you, attorneys can be creative.
Oh, I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that.
So be careful. You need to protect your property. And we were talking before we started that one of the things that I talk a lot about is I have different things that I, as you can tell, I like to talk. One of the things that we have a presentation that I do in front of attorneys and real estate investors and even people just own their own home is how to potentially protect that real estate from people like me, personal injury attorneys. And we were talking, one of the things that I stress is, one, to make sure you have good insurance, to understand how your insurance works. And another is, if you have multiple properties, to certainly consider using land trusts. They're pretty easy to use. Once you learn how to use the first time, you can just keep repeating it, and it allows you to put each property into its own separate trust envelope to make sure that your assets are protected.
Yeah, I see the land trust used by a lot of investors in the Tampa Bay region. Though there's some investors that give me an offer on every single property, and they don't even have the land trust set up, but it's always the address of the property, the buyer's name, and then comma land trust. And then once they get their offer accepted, they create the trust. How quickly does it take to even create a land trust? Is it a simple process to set up?
Literally minutes. I started off, as I was sharing with you, as a real estate attorney back 25 years ago, and didn't really like that, didn't really fit my personality, and I always wanted to be involved in real estate as an investor, so I've been involved in real estate investing for the last 25 years, and I use land trusts exclusively. You see addresses. I like to use things that involve kids and children. So my trusts are generally named, Kids Real Estate Trust or Kids College Fund Trust, something benign that if I have to go ever in front of a jury, and the jury doesn't feel so great about awarding a large amount of money because it's going to take the money away from the kids. But it's very, very quick. I have a form on my computer, and I just type in the new property address, and off we go. And so you can create it very simply, very easily. There's no filing fees involved, but every single property that I own is put into its own trust. Now, if somebody sues that trust, all they can get is the assets that are in that particular trust.
Okay, it's just it's not like a corporation that has a tax ID or an LLC. So a land trust is its own little entity. It's not. Is it similar to an LLC or no?
Well, it's definitely different from an LLC in terms of how it's created and what it does and how do you have to maintain it. The LLC is something that you have to pay annual dues for.
That's not what a land trust is.
That's absolutely not what a land trust is for. Really, land trust came about probably in the 50s when Disney used it to buy all that property out in Orlando. They wanted to make sure that nobody knew who was out there buying it, so they put each parcel that they put into a separate land trust, and it's a creature of the statutes that allows you to have a land trust. And it's a wonderful thing. But the land trust is something that you can set up very easily, and then put the property into the name of that land trust. And then, of course, you just make sure that the trustee and the beneficiary are two separate entities. You want to make sure that they're not the same, but it's a very, very useful tool.
And what's a cost for a setup for a land trust?
Well, once you learn the first one, it's free after that. There's no maintenance fee. There's no tax ID number. The only time you have to have a tax ID number is if you need a bank account. I just went through this because I bought a mobile home park, and that's going to be a separate entity. Other than that, you can put the land trust profits through your corporation. It doesn't have to, your beneficiary corporation, for example. So each trust doesn't need its own tax ID unless you're opening up a bank account. So that makes it very, very simple. Virtually it's free after you learn how to do it. My land trusts, they could be longer, but my land trusts are just 3 pages long. And like I say, there's only about 2 or 3 places on that form that I need to put some new information on when I go create a new one.
Now, is this a service you offer as an attorney to other investors now, or is this just something but it's something you used to do, correct?
Well,
Who was a
no.
real estate attorney years
When
ago.
I was a real estate attorney, I was with a large firm, and I was mainly in the back room doing condo documents and putting large deals together that I have absolutely nothing to do with and did not meet the principles. It was very, very boring. I look at it like being a janitor, or in the cleanup crew at a baseball stadium. You're there at the beginning and you're there at the end, but you don't get the fun of being at the game in the middle. So, that just didn't suit me. So I'm in the game right now as far as being a real estate investor. But no, I never did land trust for people. I only got involved in it once I started acquiring property and recognized the value of it and didn't want to keep opening up separate corporations, maintaining the corporate tax ID, paying my annual fees. The land trust is a perfect vehicle, and I'm surprised that you see it, as you mentioned.
Fairly regularly.
Just surprised I don't see everybody using it.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a lot of investors that are unschooled, and hopefully they're picking up some tips here from me today. But yeah, I see a land trust, probably about 10 to 15% of the investor deals that I see. But yeah, I think it's a well-kept secret for whatever reason here in the marketplace.
I think when people hear the word trust, they get kind of scared, and they don't realize how simple it is. And I see people thinking they have a corporation, which people think of as a barrier to lawsuits. And what they don't realize is they keep dumping more real estate into that corporation. Then somebody sues a corporation, all of their real estate can go away with just a single judgment. So that's definitely not a smart thing to do. And who wants to have 10 corporations? So, the land trust really is a effective, simple, easy, cost-effective thing to do.
And what type of documents back up a trust? So, with an LLC or corporation, you have the articles of incorporation. Does a trust have, what type of documents does a trust have to show,
It's just one piece of paper, a land trust. And then it's just 3 pages. I mentioned mine is. And actually, when anybody ever asks for it, I cross out who the beneficiary is. The whole idea of the land trust is privacy for who owns the property, and also nobody should know who that beneficiary is. And you can change the beneficiary anytime you want to. But I provide that land trust to title companies when we're about to close. I can provide it to the title company when we're about to sell, and that way they can transfer the money directly to whoever the beneficiary is. But the whole idea is to provide you privacy and secrecy in a very inexpensive and simple way.
Yeah, the reason I asked that is because of the regulations under Dodd-Frank. Whenever an investor makes an offer on a bank-owned property, the bank requires to see their articles of incorporation or whatever it is, the legal documents that give that entity, legal right to make an offer. So, and I know with a trust, some people are confused, like, I don't know what to give you.
Yeah.
And so,
no, we've never had a problem with that. There's been some REO properties that we've bought that have had title companies in other states, and sometimes I'm speaking to people from India because they put their operations abroad, and so they don't have any idea or clue of what's going on. But I've never had an issue with not being able to use the land trust, and only once. In a particular situation, because I wanted the deal really badly, did I have to actually provide the beneficiary because they were not happy when I crossed off the beneficiary name, as I always do.
Yeah, some great information. We're going to take a quick break, but please stay tuned. We'll be talking more with Dale Appell when we come back from the break. And again, you're listening to the Jamie Maloney Real Estate Show here on 1250 Wins WHNZ.
Here's Jamie.
Hi again, everybody, and thanks for staying tuned here to the Jamie Maloney Real Estate Show here on 1250 Wins WHNZ. Currently talk with Dale Appell, personal injury attorney here in the Tampa Bay region, who is specializes in auto accidents. And so, Dale, let's talk a little bit more. How does somebody choose an auto accident attorney? What are some of the things they need to be looking for?
That's a great question. I got to tell you, the way people usually choose an auto accident lawyer is very similar to how they choose tomatoes at the supermarket. They just pick it up. And they don't spend a lot of time analyzing or deciding who would be best for them. They think we're all the same. And they really don't know that who they choose can make such a huge difference to the quality of their life and the results of their settlement. So I appreciate your question. And the answer is, I always think referral is the best way to choose a attorney no matter what. But particularly in an auto accident. Sometimes people will rely upon whoever has the biggest billboard, the most TV commercial, and figure, oh, well, those people must be good because they're doing a lot of advertising. They must have a lot of money, and that somehow translates to good. It doesn't really work that way. The people who have the biggest mass media are the people that are running through clients very quickly in order to get more money to advertise, and don't necessarily have to focus on quality because they don't rely upon the referral system, which is the way it used to work 25, 30 years ago. So I'm a big believer in referral. That way you know that they did good for that person, and you figure they have to do pretty good for you, because if I don't, in my situation, if I don't make my client happy, if they're not going to go back and tell their relatives and their family members and their friends, boy, that Dale's pretty good at what he does, you ought to go and choose him, then I'm going to be out of business because I don't have the mass advertising. I can't compete with that kind of mass marketing. So I'm a big, huge believer in referrals. Once you get that referral, people think that, attorneys have a certain reputation for having no personality. And then, maybe just like their surgeon, and that's actually a good thing. But I think when you should meet with the attorney, and if you don't get to meet with the attorney, then you have to wonder, well, is that the kind of person I really want? That firm really is going to do good for me. So I'd meet with the attorney, and if you don't like the attorney, if there's not a chemistry there, if you don't think that attorney has their heart in the right place, you're probably right. And that's going to result in you, as I say, potentially not getting the help that you need, the care that you deserve, and ultimately the settlement that you're looking for. So meet with the attorney, see what you think, ask questions about their experience, ask questions about the last time they tried a case. Trial is not necessary in many situations. People know that for the most part, auto accident cases settle. But the insurance companies are keeping tab of who out there is willing to file a lawsuit. So if you're not willing to file a lawsuit, the insurance company figures, why don't I just offer some breadcrumbs to that attorney? I know he's going to go and sell his client that breadcrumb because they're not going to be able to file a lawsuit in this case. So you've got to be able to have a firm that will file when necessary. And the more likely they'll file, the more likely the insurance company is going to give them a settlement that's appropriate. So those are some ideas and some tips. And the reason why it's so important, just like with any attorney, but particularly auto accident attorneys, you're going to rely upon them for help in getting to the right doctors, in getting the right treatment, in making sure that they negotiate your medical bills at the end. And all of that means that you're going to be able to net more money at the end. And that money, although people say, everyone's chasing ambulances, everybody in our country now, they just want money for nothing. That may be true in some situations. It's not true in a lot of situations. And that money is going to be useful for getting deductibles paid in the future when you need future help. It may be important to have somebody mow your lawn now because you can't do it because your back is going to be permanently injured. Or just because, in the fairness to you, because somebody wasn't paying attention, you have this permanent injury, you deserve a little something to put away either for your retirement or to go on a cruise, because that's the fairness of our society.
So let's talk a little bit about all the 800 Ask Tom, Dick, or Harry services out there. How do they come into play in the auto accident business? And what is your opinion on them?
Well, isn't that a loaded question? People forget that 10 years ago, those didn't exist. I mean, there was always referral services, but they were way, way in the background. And even in my own practice, my practice was very, very different back 10 years ago because I didn't have to compete against that type of marketing in the 800 numbers. And I relied mostly on referrals. My gut feeling is, and from what I hear from people that call us, that when you have that type of large quantity of cases that are going through your system, it's hard to give the individual attention that each person deserves. So as a result of that, the person's injuries, there's not a lot of communication, discussion about what's going on, what has helped, what kind of doctors to see, what doctors you should go to, how to make the whole process as convenient to you as possible. And remember, you're talking about life-changing type of issues, both in terms of injuries causing you not to be able to enjoy your life or do the things that you used to do. And there may be ways to solve that problem, but if you don't have good communication with the firm that's representing you, you'll never know about it.
Does an attorney who wants to be part of that network contact the 800 number and say, hey, and they pay a certain fee to get the referrals, or do they have to be invited into the networks? Do you know?
I used to know. I don't know if there's been any changes, but it used to work that the firms that were involved would pay money to the 800 number. And what's changed in that whole business model that never existed before, and the Florida Bar has looked into extensively, as well as the Attorney General, whether or not there's conflicts of interest. What they never really had before was that these referral services then began owning chiropractic offices. And so the conflicts of interest inherent in those relationships were huge. And I had thought that the Florida Bar and the state would change the laws. They haven't yet. But your attorney is not necessarily giving you the full attention that you deserve and also looking out for your best interest when they know their next client may be coming from a referral service that owns the medical provider that has all of your medical bills and is providing you service. So when you call your attorney and say, I'm not happy there, is your attorney going to say, well, don't go there anymore? Or if they say, the bills are outrageous, is your law firm that's paying money to get that client from that referral service that owns them going to say, well, then we should negotiate that down, or that's not the right amount of money to pay? Or are they going to say, no, stay there because I'm paying so much money each month, I need those people to continue referring me business, so you should stay exactly where you're at, even if they're not helping you.
And I read recently about that conflict in the news, probably sometime in the last year, about these 800 numbers owning their service providers and the inherent conflict that creates.
It's a brand new thing, never existed before. And man, I'm just surprised that the state doesn't do something about it, because from my point of view, it just doesn't seem right.
Well, you can file a lawsuit against them, can't you?
Well, I appreciate that. Filing a lawsuit's not as easy as you think. You can always file a lawsuit. Anyone can file a lawsuit in America, which makes us a wonderful country or a terrible country, depending on how you look at it. But you have to survive summary judgment. So you have to have what's called cause of action to not just get in the courthouse, but stay in the courthouse.
Yeah, and speak to a little bit about, the ambulance chasing attorneys. I mean, there's obviously, people say attorneys this, attorneys that, but I mean, when you're filing bogus lawsuits, I mean, there's got to be some type of pushback from the judges and your fellow attorneys. Am I not correct? I mean, you want to be filing, legitimate cases.
I want to be filing legitimate cases.
Do you not see that amongst your peers in this region? I'm just speaking just in this region specifically.
I know that there is lawsuits filed that are frivolous. It's too difficult to know whether or not the attorney knows it or the client is not telling them the whole story.
But is there any type of backlash from the other attorneys that kind of weed that type of client or person out?
No, it really requires the integrity of the law firm to do it. The judge is, for the most part, neutral. There is something called a 57-105 that you can be responsible as the attorney for attorney's fees for the other side if you file something that you know is frivolous. But it's rare that judges will actually impose those fees, and to prove that the lawyer knew that there was a frivolous defense or a frivolous claim when filed. So it really depends on the integrity of the law firm. And I got to tell you though, from a person who operates a personal injury law firm, there's just not a lot of money in losing cases. So we spend a lot of money on it. We plan to win, and I think that guides a lot of law firms in choosing the cases they wish to file on.
Oh, we got about 40 seconds left. How can people out there get in touch with your firm if they need some assistance?
Jeremy, thank you for asking. 813-877-3253 or 877-DALE or 727-866-DALE. And our website is wefightforjustice.com.
Hey, great conversation today with Dale Appell. Dale, thank you very much for coming in the studio today.
You're welcome. Pleasure.
All right, great information as always here on the Jamie Maloney Real Estate Show. And if you didn't catch his information, we'll get it up on the Tampa Bay Radio site here shortly after the show. Just head over again, tampabayradio.com. Or shoot me a quick email, jamie@tampabayradio.com. I hope everybody has a great week, and thanks again for listening to the Jamie Maloney Real Estate Show here on 1250 Wins WHNZ. I will see you all back here next Monday at noon.